Hi everybody, this video is sponsored by contribution from Denny Pop, and here's her story. Hi Ollie, it's the fourth time writing due to a computer trouble. My letters didn't send, so trying again. I sent you the video with my mother's phone calls and some of my background. I sent a PayPal contribution also and will send more in the future just because I support what you are doing here. A lot is told in the video. I never published it after I made it because I am so embarrassed at how I come across due to my PTSD and low self-esteem and conditioned response of hiding the truth of my own abuse at any cost. I was slapped in the face, shamed, had my hair yanked, scratched, grounded, you name it, every time I opened my mouth about my abuse. And now today at 59, I can barely speak it, with eyes darting, searching for the slapping hand as I do. Low voice low, as if God will reach down and instantly crush me for revealing the truth of my abuse. That's what I was taught about God, that he knew how evil I was, and I couldn't wait for me to open my mouth so she could unleash his fury on me for questioning my abusive parents. Well, I finally made my peace with God. I am not evil, they are. And I need help recovering from what they did to me. And God is on the side of good, not evil. I am the last surviving kid of all three, so all my mother's wrath is now focused on me. I went no contact 2.5 years ago, but she will not leave me alone, sending me crap in the mail which I don't open, toss it in a box in the closet, change my phone number, live 60 miles away, nothing stops her. She is now driving 120 miles to show up on my porch, demanding to speak to me, accusing my husband of holding me against my will. The shit is so insane, I hate even writing this crap down. After me yelling at her, "What the hell are you doing here? Get the hell out of here," refusing to listen to her insane accusations in front of my children and grandchildren, who were all here at the time, because we were holding a 5-family yard sale that day. The chaos was sickening and straight out of my childhood. She was clearly trespassing, been told countless times not to come here, refused to leave, and continued her tirade. You should have just called the cops. It was awful. All the shit I protected my kids and grandkids from all these years, and she still brought it here into my home. I am livid. So after all that, she goes to a fly-by-night lawyer and pays him to write the $500 letter at how I assaulted her and am trying to get her money and need to leave her alone. What do I do now to protect myself from this demon legally? She has threatened to have us swatted, and this scares me very much because I often have my little grandkids here and I am disabled. If I were thrown on the ground, it would physically kill me, and she knows this. Or even if I became very scared or stressed, I am at very high risk of a fatal cardiac event, according to my cardiologist, and she also knows this. My home is mortgage-free, and I love it. I have planted beautiful fruit trees, flowers, things that take years to establish. I dread the thought of leaving it, but now my peace has been invaded by her. I feel like there is no safe place for me, just as there has never been since birth. My kids all support and love me. They have cut contact with her. Not that she ever showed any interest in them anyway, except to trot their pictures out for her church friends' approval. My, what lovely grandchildren you have. While I struggled as a single mother of 4, working 2 jobs, driving beater cars, going without necessities like medical, dental care, wearing Goodwill clothing, living on ramen noodles, putting myself and my kids through college. While she hoarded every penny of hundreds of thousands inherited from my grandparents, a rich aunt, 2 dead husbands. Anyway, you get the picture. She lived a charmed life. And my now deceased little brother lived in an alcoholic fog nightmare on the street, sleeping under bridges. Yeah, she's freaking mother of the year, all right. I told her when I went no contact to shove her inheritance up her ass, I didn't want it and never did. Yet she tells the lawyer I'm after her money. Oh my God. Anyway, your help means so much to me, Ollie. I do believe the only way to fight these people is to expose them. All the best, Denny. Well, if you haven't even contacted her in 2.5 years, let the lawyer send all the money, all the $500 letters he wants. Who cares? You haven't talked to her and you have witnesses. Sounds like you have your entire family, your kids, your neighbors who saw this entire thing on your side anyway. I don't know what she would have you swatted over, but if you're that concerned about being swatted, what I would do is I would go down to the precinct and I would want to talk to one of the detectives or somebody in charge and say, look, I just want to advise you. I'm not asking for a report to be filled out, nothing like that. I just want to advise you. I had to cut my mother out of my life many years ago. And she's obsessed with coming after me, trying to rekindle whatever abuse she put on me. And don't get into what she did or anything. Look, the bottom line is, I don't want this woman in my house, but she's making threats to have me swatted. So I have no idea what she would have me swatted for. I just want to make you aware if anything were to come through and do that. Okay, make them aware. That way, God forbid, if they do swat you, you understand? You've already informed them of what the situation is, but I don't think so. I think you're a little over worried about the swatting, because what is she really going to swat you on? I mean, you're a 60-year-old woman with grandkids, so that's terrible. So on to your video that you sent me. And I think you guys should be able to hear this pretty well. This is Denny's life in her own words.
All the phone calls for you. I'm going to tell you about myself, my experience with narcissistic parents. Both of them narcissistic. My father passed away 5 years ago now. Both of them were alcoholics. Both of them were abusive. My childhood and my brother's childhood were a nightmare, filled with abuse, physical violence, emotional put-downs. Never knew what to expect in our home from one minute to the next, really. We've had many rides to the police station in the middle of the night because my dad was drunk, went ballistic, beat the crap out of my mother, busted windows, busted the house all up. I mean, this didn't happen once. This happened, I don't know, probably 25 or 30 times, maybe more. And it was horrible. It was a horrible life. My mother, on top of that, I believe my mother is schizophrenic because she seems to have no memory of these things that she's done, even since she's been sober. I mean, the horrible thing.
That's not schizophrenic. That's narcissism. Everything your mother does is calculating. Everything. Schizophrenics don't hire lawyers to cut you out of an inheritance. Everything your mother does is planned and calculated. She's not schizophrenic.
She continues to do and say. She'll call up and throw these tirades on my voicemail, on other people's voicemail, and she claims she has no memory of it. She just denies it. So I'm not sure if she's just a narcissist, child abuser. She also molested my brother when he was 14. She was drunk at the time. He was at home, sleeping on the couch. My dad and her were separated. I was already out of the house and married, had kids of my own by this time. My brother was 7 years younger than me. He also is dead now. He passed away last year, drank himself to death at the age of 49. But he woke up on the couch to my mom performing oral sex on him. And I was horribly traumatized, horrified, like you would be. And of course, she denies all of this. There were other boys that she molested. Actually, she had a regular, ongoing sexual relationship with a boy that was 2 years older than me when I was a child. And it was known. It was kind of common knowledge. His mother pulled me aside as I was walking home from school one day and invited me in for cookies and milk. And I told her I didn't like milk, so she had some lemonade and proceeded to grill me, trying to find out what was going on with my mother and her son, Billy. And I actually had no idea because I didn't know anything about sex. I knew that Billy came over and went into my house, and I was locked outside until streetlights came on at night. And her and Billy were in my house with the doors locked. My dad was a truck driver, second shift truck driver, and wasn't at home. And what was going on was sex with a 12-year-old. Billy was 12. And this went on for a couple of years. And then we moved. And Billy wasn't available anymore. There was also my cousin, Mike, who was older than me, about 5 or 6 years older than me. We were at a Christmas party, a family Christmas party, and all of a sudden all hell broke loose. Chairs flying, hair being pulled, people being knocked down, punches thrown. It was just insanity. And what had happened was my mother had been caught in the closet with Mike having sex, and Mike was 14. So then, of course, everybody was drunk. My family was always drunk. And so we left. My aunt ripped my mother's hair out, scratched her face.
Why weren't the police called? Why?
Dad was also going after my mother. All the way home, he was screaming at her at the top of his lungs, swerving all over the road. We actually drove down the wrong side of the expressway for about, 40 miles on ice. And it actually happened to be a blizzard that night. And so that was on Christmas Eve. My brother told me that there were at least 2 other of his friends that he knows that she had sex with more than once. But by this time, they were like 15. And I guess the boys thought it was cool. They didn't tell my brother about it, but my brother knew. So my mother is disgusting, a very disgusting person. And yeah, she has this image of a church lady. She's actually a deaconess in a Lutheran church. Hey everybody, starting a new channel about narcissistic parents, especially my mother, because the abuse is still going on. I was raised by 2 alcoholic, flaming narcissistic people who really didn't want to have kids. They ran off as young teenagers, and I came along like 11 months later. They were ill prepared to have kids. My mother was 18 when I was born. My father was 16 when I was born. My life was a nightmare.
So your mother's always liked them young, huh? Interesting.
Childhood was a nightmare. My little brother's life was an even worse nightmare. And yet I'm dealing with a mother who is I don't know if she's schizophrenic along with it. She claims, to have no knowledge of any of this. She's flaming insane, living a lie, pretending she's this wonderful church lady, and yet continues to emotionally, mentally abuse me. So I cut off contact December 30th of last year. So, and it's October 24th, so it's been a while. But I've done it before, and then I ended up, she would guilt me back into having another, having more relationship with her, letting her back in my life, only to have another insane episode. Not to mention I have all this anger stored up from all the years of abuse and neglect and insanity. I have a lot of anger towards her. I beyond the damage that she does, and she does have contact with me, I can't control the anger that I have towards her. I don't ever want to be around her. I don't ever want to be in her presence again. Ever. I don't even want her at my funeral. That's pretty bad, My father passed away 5 years ago, and that was actually on the nightly news. It was a suicide by cop, actually. My life is unbelievable, okay? If I wrote my life story down as a novel, no, everybody would just think it was a fantasy. Nobody would believe how crazy my life's been because of these two people. I've done my best. I have 4 grown kids. I have 8 grandkids. Nobody in my family even finished high school. Nobody. I finished high school. I got a nursing license certificate as an LPN. That's how I fed my family. I went beyond that. I went back and got an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree. Now, excuse me, I gotta close my window. I got a pesky cat. I've done a lot. I never drank after I had my kids. I drank alcoholically until my kids were born, and I swore I wouldn't put my kids through that. So when a little while before I got pregnant with my first son, I put all that down. No drugs. Never been to jail. Never had I think I had a couple of traffic tickets for speeding. That's the extent of my running afoul of the rules. I was the kid that always went overboard trying to be good and invisible, actually. I was the invisible child. I figured if I was perfect, didn't rock the boat in any way, maybe things would be okay at home. Because I internalize things, I guess like human beings do. But, anyway, I want to play a phone call, the one that actually pushed me into going no contact with my abuser mother. And she actually called me up, delusional, asked me if I'd been talking to some friend of hers.
Saved message. Hi again, it's me. I really wish you would have done that to me, Denny. I really do. And I've had a lot of patience with you, and I also want you to know that someone in the family, someone that knows you, I've been told that you and Terry are dealing drugs out there. I sure hope that isn't true, Denise, because you're going to get a very rude awakening.
I'm going to post the link to this video, and I've already put it in my playlist. But when you see this video of Denny who's been abused, you're going to dealing drugs. It's those fucking veiled threats that the narcissist loves to make. Somebody told me. There's always that. Whenever the narcissist says, somebody told me, they're full of shit. They are manipulating. Somebody told me in the veiled threat, and now that's to get you to believe that she has people on her side, which she doesn't. People, so for somebody to have told her this, that would have to be somebody who's living where you are, who knows you. So in essence, what she's telling you is, I have spies, people that will testify against you. I've basically been able to manipulate your friends into doing what I want, and now she's making this veiled threat. However, when you see this video, it's going to be funny.
They say that's how you get by, carrying that one. So I hope it isn't true, and I sure am going to pray for you, Denny, because you really need it. Bye for now.
Oh, with the bye for now, I got fuck you, bitch. Fuck you. Oh, what a loser.
And this message, to delete this message, press 7 to resave. Next message. Hey again, Denise. I was hoping that you would answer. I am your mother.
I am your
And
mother.
it's awful. You have treated your family terrible. Your dad, me, and Dan too. Just awful stuff. It's just the meaner you can be, and the better you can treat us, the better you seem to feel about yourself and like it. It's very evil.
Oh, you poor victim. You poor victim.
Evil, Denny. It's completely evil.
Evil, huh?
I don't even know you anymore. The girl I raised would have done that. We were a loving family.
This is from the woman, mind you, who was banging 12 and 14-year-olds. Oh, Jesus, the righteous indignation of the narcissist.
We were a family. I can't imagine you doing these things. It's been said to me that you two are higher kites on dope up there, and you're dealing it. And there's been a terrible change in you, Denise. And you saying to me, I'm paranoid? No, I am not paranoid. There's nothing wrong with me, Denise. But I sure think there is with you. You're hooked on drugs. And I'd be careful. You said mention something about making a phone call. I can make phone calls too. And I think maybe this all should be looked into because I think you are going ahead and not, Denise.
I would call and have her ass Baker acted. I would call adult services. Play them these. Okay, and say, you're welcome to come to my home and talk to me. Okay, this is a delusional woman who is sexually abusive and is going down the rabbit hole. And she's good, and she's not only a danger to me, but she's a danger to herself and to others. Period. Bring them in. I'd invite the cops in. It's like, we're not drug dealers. That was my point. I didn't know what she was going to have you swatted on, but call adult services in your state. Call adult services in your state and give them and let them know my mother has gone off a rocker.
And that breaks my heart. But there's nothing I can do. And it's like I said, you're going to answer Jesus Christ for the way you treated your dad and me and Dan.
What's Jesus gonna have to say about your little closet tryst with a 14-year-old with a 14-year-old family member? Huh? You don't think he's gonna have some fucking questions for you? Whoa, slow down. Even if you were selling drugs, I think Jesus would be like, whoa, slow down. Let's look at your history here.
It's terrible. He hateful on me. Anything hateful on me, you can do or say, or you do it. And I'm not the person I was 20 years ago, Denise. I took all I'm going to took from you.
You're not? What? Because what? Because now a 12-year-old won't fuck you? So now you've changed? Is that why? Is that why you're not the person you were?
And it's too bad, because I love you, you're my daughter, but oh no, you're not going to treat you like this anymore. I need an I'm sorry, Mom, and I better get it. And I don't leave condos to people that don't like me either. Goodbye.
I don't leave condos. Keep your condo.
End of message. To delete this message, press 7. To save and resave. Next message. Bye.
Okay, it goes on. There was probably 5 of those voicemails that day. My phone rang probably 40 times, I would say. All of that because she had called me and said, have you been talking to Shirley, who is some old lady friend of hers that, I haven't seen in probably 30 years. Because someone's been going to my church and telling them bad things about me. And I was like, well, see, this is why I think she's schizophrenic. Because that's insane. I mean, even that her friend would do that to her isn't.
No. The people at her church got sick of her bullshit and called her out on it. So she needs somebody to blame. Don't you understand? She always needs somebody to blame when she gets called out for her behavior. She got called out for her behavior in her church. So now she's saying, you must have talked to Shirley because Shirley's probably the weakest link of her friends, the easiest one to scapegoat, okay? And making up some conspiracy in her head. That's not schizophrenic. That's calculating. That's to avoid her taking responsibility for her own behavior. If she's having problems in her church, it has nothing to do with her own, other than her own fucking behavior. All this is a ploy to push responsibility off her own behavior, off herself, having to take responsibility for her own actions. Oh shit, my own actions, look what they've done to me now. No. She has to make up a conspiracy. Well, you must have talked to Shirley after 30 fucking years. That's the only way anybody would turn on me in church. Bullshit. Look at the person she is, Danny. I mean, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time a woman like this gets exposed. A family like this falls to shit, gets exposed. And believe me, it's because you've been living 60 miles away. She hasn't had you in church to be able to blame everything on. When she would go in there and blame everything on you and whatever fucking problems, it must have been as a cause of you living there. Once you moved away, people probably started saying, you know what, Denise doesn't live here anymore. Nothing's changed, it's gotten worse. You know what? You're the problem, and that she can't have.
Saying I seriously doubt that her friend knows what church she goes to. I know I don't. I live 60 miles from my mother. Thank God. And I said in this, a normal voice, are you okay? Because that sounds paranoid. And from there, she just went ballistic. She started screaming in my ear, and I just hung up. And that's the last time I ever spoke to her. It's oh my God, to have a relationship with her is to be, you'd be insane in a matter of a few days. And I've been dealing with this my whole life. I've been accused of being a slut, whore, bitch since before I was in school. Before I started kindergarten. I knew what those words were, and that my mother said them to me, called me those words. I mean, it's hard to know where to start, because, like I said, my life's unbelievable. as far as my parents, my family of origin life is concerned. You know, I'm not sure YouTube is even the place for it. I could tell so many stories, and there's a lot of people out there that have mothers like this, I think. I don't think I'm the only one. I've watched other YouTube videos. That's actually where I got the idea of going on YouTube with this stuff, that it could possibly help somebody. And if nothing else, it could help me to maybe work through this. I went to some counseling for this, especially right after I found out that she had molested my little brother. Because I wanted to kill her. I wanted to kill her. Because my brother's life was a complete and utter tragedy. He was just a non-functional alcoholic. Went from one hospital to the jail, to the rehab program, back to the hospital, back to the jail, back to the retail. He lived on the street, he had no home. He never was married because he could never keep a relationship going long enough to get to that point. He did father 2 sons, but was not in their lives at all. He didn't work. He wasn't capable of working. He was too effed up to keep any kind of job. And he was also very physically ill from the alcohol abuse. And eventually it ruined his heart and his pancreas, and drank himself to death at 49. I have a younger sister who has been in an institution from the age of 4. We got 3. I was 4, she was 3. I don't know for sure, but I suspect that what happened to her was shaken baby syndrome. Because one time, this is years ago, all her symptoms are consistent with shaken baby syndrome, but we're talking 55 years ago, and there was medical science. Nobody knew about shaken baby syndrome. All they knew about was brain damage. Well, my sister's severely brain damaged. She doesn't talk, walk, nothing. She's a vegetable. And one time, about, I would say, maybe 25, 30 years ago, my mother, out of the clear blue, started telling me about a neighbor that we had when I was a little girl, and my sister was a baby, who got real frustrated with the baby and threw her across the room, and she landed on a couch, and the baby was never right after that. And I think that was my sister, because there's no other explanation for what's wrong with my sister. She, was a very young infant, just a few weeks old or a couple months old or whatever, began having seizures, terrible seizures, and screamed all the time. And that's what happens with shaken baby syndrome. That's what happens with it. And then profound retardation, lots of, medications, phenobarbital, all that stuff, and that, all kinds of major medicines to stop the seizures. And then,
There's another thought based on your mother's behavior and her proclivity to bang family members. It's usually genetic problems with interfamily births. I would wonder if any of that was going on as well. I'm not saying it's not shaken baby syndrome, but think about your mother. Think about her proclivity to who she'll have sex with at what time. Who knows?
She was never out of her crib, as I remember as a very young child. She was in her crib all the time until one day we got in the car. We drove her down to Coldwater, Michigan, which was a state home for handicapped people, severely retarded people, people with hydrocephalus, that kind of thing, Down syndrome, whatever, and dropped her off, and we never went back. Which boggles my mind, because I can't understand how a mother could just drive a 3-year-old away, drop her off, and not go back. For years, I'm talking 40 years.
It's almost like she's trying to hide her, right? That's what it seems like. She's trying to hide her. Why? Other than she's just a selfish cunt who cares only about her own needs and what she wants, and who wants to have a handicapped child. It's kind of a reminder of either what she did, shaken baby syndrome, or the longer she's around, the more somebody might figure out maybe your father wasn't the father. Think about your mother having sex with any young boy, family member or not. Can't say it's out of the realm of possibility.
Now she goes and visits her. Now she lives in one of these group homes, with like 5 or 6 people, and people take care of her around the clock. And she, she has to be fed baby food and whatnot. She's like a giant 55-year-old baby. But my mother goes and visits her. She says every week. I doubt it. It's probably once a month that she actually goes there to visit her. But until just a few years ago, she didn't go visit her. We never went as a family. I was never taken to visit her. My mother didn't go to visit her. And I can remember my aunt, my mother's older sister, having an argument with her about it, why she didn't go visit her. Being a parent of 4 kids, 5 actually, one is in heaven. She had a heart defect and never got to come home from the hospital. She died when she was 30 days old. But being a parent of, these 4 kids, I can't even fathom dropping one of them off at age 3 and not going back. So anyway, that's a pretty good indicator of the kind of mother we're dealing with. And then, what she did to my brother. My brother, I was already out of the home because I was married. I already had a child or 2, I think. And my brother was 7 years younger than I. He was 14 and was sleeping on the couch. And my mother came home drunk from the bar in the middle of the night. And he woke up with her doing oral sex to him. And it affected him so horribly that he was never able to get over it. And probably because it was never acknowledged. It was just pretend like it never happened kind of thing. He never told anybody. He never got any treatment for it. And it ruined him. And I hold her responsible for that. And anyway, I'm trying to keep my sanity. I'm almost 60 years old. I'm 57. And I've left this stuff in the past. But I can't, because I still get phone calls. I still get this insanity. She won't leave me alone.
Change your
She
number.
keeps calling out, oh, now her heart. Well, she's been dying for years now. I'd say probably 20 years. She's been dying. So.
Aren't they all?
But anyway, she's really dying now because she has to take heart medicine, you know, which I do too. And so did my brother, but, you know, hers is way worse. But
all these heart defects in your family? Think about this. Are you sure your father's your father? And I hate to say it, and I could be wrong. That many heart defects, that many problems, the incestuous behavior already by your mother, her need to have sex with underage boys, really young boys, just about obviously barely pubescent because they're able to have sex with her, but I'd have myself, my DNA, my blood work tested to make sure that my mother and father don't come from the same family. And I hate to say that. I hate to say it. But based on all these defects and all this stuff, your mother's kids, your kids, I mean, your whole family, alcoholic, the behavior, the way they react to it, I think there is an another level to this, possibly, that either you haven't thought of or you're afraid the road to go down.
anyway, she's been on the phone on this frickin' mission on this phone like 7-8 times a day, calling me, leaving me these messages, you know, well, families just don't act like that. You forgot to talk to me. I'm never talking to her again. I went no contact last December after the calls you just heard. I'm never, ever, ever talking to her again. Never. And I don't care if she's going to drop dead. I already accepted that. Long time ago. I could drop dead. For that matter, you know, any of us could. She won't let it rest. She won't accept it. She's living in a fantasy world, which, oh my God, I'm sure glad I'm not there, because it's so far out there. But anyway, I'm going to make videos. I'm going to tell my life story, the abuse I've been through, what it does to a person, in the hopes that it might help somebody else. Might. Thanks for watching.
I don't know why you were worried that you thought you were rambling or had PTSD. That's a lot better than my first video ever was. It's a tragic story. And you still have a lot of unanswered questions. The first thing I would want to know is, are you sure that your father is your father? Are you sure your brother's father is your father? Your sister's father is your father? With all these genetic problems, with all these defects, and your mother's behavior. Could just be shaken baby syndrome. This is a lot of defects. A lot. I know this was 2 years ago you made this video, but I hope you've at least changed your number by now. I know you're still worried about being swatted, but I would go to the police myself and say, listen, I have a Looney Tune mother who I had to cut out, who's now trying to accuse me of being some sort of drug dealer, me and my husband. And when you see this video, you'll see the ridiculousness of the statement. And I'd handle it that way. I'd handle it that way. I would be more curious to find out, get blood work done, just to make sure if you haven't already. Because all those genetic defects, it's weird. And the question has to be asked based on your mother's behavior. Sorry you went through all this, and it's a tragic story, but I think it'll help. Thank you for your contribution, and thank you again for sending the story and the video. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any advice or opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover or a narcissist you'd like to expose, you know what to do with the email and my PayPal link in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ali Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon. Bye.